Well, it's time to work on exercises 3 and 4 next. For these exercises, we're looking to have you create a brand new Android project that converts between degrees Fahrenheit and degrees Celsius. We'll have a user type in the Fahrenheit temperature in an edit text box, and when the user clicks on a button, we'll have a listener update a text view to display the converted value. So this isn't going to be too much different from the Hello World application, and I'll probably reach into that here and there for a little bit of code to borrow. So let's go ahead and go over to Eclipse, and I will begin by cleaning up files that we have currently open from the Hello Android application. Again, I might reach into those in a little bit, but I want a new project. So a new Android application project. I'll call this My Converter or something along those lines. That's fine for the application name, the project name. Package name can be anything. I'll stick with common example My Converter. Target SDK 17 is probably the best since I know that's been working with our other projects. I'll hit next, and I won't have it create a custom launcher. We'll skip that step. The little Android guy for the launcher will be just fine. And a blank activity is good. And finally, what do we want to name our activity? You could just leave it main activity if you wanted to. I think I want to just be a little bit more clear. This is a converter activity. And I'll name my layout activity underscore converter automatically. So I'll hit finish. And it generates for me the XML layout for the converter. It also generates for me a basic activity class that I can add to. So let's do the layout first. So much like last time, in addition to having a text view, we also want to have an edit text, right? And we also want to have a button. So those are the components that we want to work with here. I could go ahead and put in Android : ID equals and give it an ID, etc., etc. But I think the fastest way for me to do this is to reach back over to the similar file that we had in our Hello Android application. So that would be under res layout activity Hello Android XML. I'm going to just borrow these three entries: the text, the button, the text view. Control C. And I'll just drop them over into my layout. What this will do is it'll just save me from having to type everything in exactly right. It'll be, at least the names of the attributes are already going to be there. We'll have to make some adjustments, but it'll be a little closer. So okay, so let's start with the edit text. It shouldn't be called a name. It should be the temperature that we're going to be converting from. The width of it, that can be as wide as the parent. That's okay. The height, just as tall as the text edit text wants to be, just as big as the numbers that'll go inside. We'll go ahead and align it on the top left of the parent. And for the hint, instead of saying please provide your name, we'll say please enter a temperature. We have a button. It shouldn't be an ID of say hello. Maybe it's going to be called convert. We'll use that for the ID. And width and height will say wrap the content. So don't make the button wider than the text that it has inside of it, or taller than the text it has inside of it. And lay it out below. Let's put it below the temperature edit text. So below that guy. And then finally, what's the text going to say? I'll say convert Fahrenheit to Celsius. I think that's how you spell it. Text view. Again, hello probably isn't a good name here. Maybe it'll be just result. That might be fine. Width and height, just wrapping the contents fine. And it's going to be below the button who has an ID of convert. So that's the basics of what we're putting together here. We want to have an edit text, a button, and a text view. I went ahead and gave them appropriate IDs, appropriate hint and text here as well. If I click over to graphical layout, that looks pretty good. Please enter a temperature. We have the nice big button, convert Fahrenheit to Celsius. I suppose if I didn't want the button quite as big, I could say convert F to C. And if we take a look at that, so save it, go back to graphical layout, Notice the button is smaller. Well, that button has been set up so that it is wrapping the content on both the width and the height. That means that it's only good for width, it's only going to be as wide as it needs to be given the text that's inside of there. If you decide to use this graphical layout to work with this, off to the right you're going to have all the various attributes that you can interact with. And so somewhere in here is going to be things like that, those entries for the wrapping content, for example. I think it's down in here, alignments, centering. What were we actually looking at? It was the layout height. So it's likely in here if I were to scroll around and take a look. Oh, here it is, width and height, and the different options that we can put in there. But I'm just going to stick with the XML. That'll work just fine for what we have right now. Okay, so we have the XML in place. We now need to change the code. So that is going to be in the activity. We need to, for one, I need to get a reference to the button and register a listener with the button. And then I'm not going to do anything with an options menu. I don't need that, but I need to create an inner class that converts Fahrenheit to Celsius. So those are like the two big steps we've got to go through here. So first of all, let's get a reference to the button. Again, probably the easiest thing to do would be to reach back over into the Hello Android example, and let's just borrow a little bit of code here, right? We need to do a find view by ID to get our button. So let's grab that code. And so we'll say we have a button. It's going to be the convert button. I'll rename it here. And r.id. I think it was called convert. I'll type in con and hit Control Space, and Eclipse knows what's already out there and it fills it in for me. All right, well, my button is called convert button, and I want to register with it a listener, but I need to create the listener class. I haven't created that yet. I'll call it my F2C listener, Fahrenheit to Celsius listener. But I'll have to build that next. So let me grab, I'll grab this inner class from the Hello Android activity, and we'll use that as our starting point. My F2C listener is going to be the name of my inner class. And I won't worry about the logging here. The other stuff could be useful. We need to get a hold of the edit text. Well, our edit text wasn't called name. It was the ID was temperature. And so look up an r.id.temperature. And the text view was called result. And maybe I should say this is a temperature edit text and a result text view. Okay, so now that we have those two GUI controls, we want to retrieve the temperature from the edit text box. So off that temperature edit text, we're going to get the text that's in there, convert it to a string, and let's go ahead and call that the temperature F, as in Fahrenheit. And now this is where we need to do a little bit of math. We want to convert the temperature in Fahrenheit to Celsius. So how are we going to do that? Well, we'll have to take that temperature F, and actually I don't want it as a string. I want it as an integer, as an int. And so maybe actually I'll say temperature S as in string, or SF, string Fahrenheit, and then let's convert that to an int. We can say int temperature F equals the string. We'll pass that into the integer.parseInt class. This is just a Java library method you can deal with. So the integer class, the parseInt method, I should say. So given the string temperature SF, we're asking Java to convert that to an int. And with our int, we'll go ahead and now do our mathematics on that.